So gold and silver are money. Nothing else is. This $20 bill here, this is not actually money. I'm going to get into why and why it says in the Constitution of the United States that the government shall have no other money except for gold and silver. Maybe you're surprised to hear this. It was eventually amended, but I want to get into it. I want to talk about why it's very impactful for your investments, for what you're doing with your money. So stick around. It's going to be a great time, and you're going to love it. So this, I believe, is my most controversial video. So please stick around to the end. I'm going to make a good case for why gold and silver are money and really nothing else is. So when you think about this right here, this $20 bill, a lot of us think that this is actually what money is. This is what we've been taught. But this is not actually what money is. Money is something that actually has intrinsic value. So in the past, when the US was created, they said only gold or silver. That's the only thing that shall be treated as money. So for over 200 years, we had something called the gold standard, where basically you had a gold piece that you could basically go in and you'd be able to use to pay for things. You'd have silver, you'd have smaller coins. And then for your gold, if you didn't want to haul around all this gold, you're able to exchange 1 gold ounce for a $20 bill. And so this was more of a claim check. It was not that this was the money was the gold. This was simply the claim. And it used to say that the person holding this or the bearer could actually go in at any time and get gold. Now that actually changed in 1933 when there was an executive order saying that it's illegal now for US citizens to have gold. It was kind of during the Great Depression, and it was actually illegal to actually own gold as an individual in the US until the 70s. And so people still did it, they still owned it, but at that point what happened is that the dollar was then disconnected to any sort of gold. You know, the 30s and then the 70s, we've had this gradual inflation. Now what happens when you have inflation? The currency is not tied to anything else. So what it is, it's called fiat. So when you have $20, now there could be another $20 that's printed. There could be a million more $20 bills that are printed, or governments can simply try to print their way out of a problem. But the challenge is when you print more paper money without any sort of thing backing it, what happens is it starts to dilute the value of the currency. Now an extreme case of this is seen in 1920s Germany, when basically it took, I mean, we had just ridiculous inflation. It went nuts. And I have another video that talks about the inflation king. You can check that out, about how he was able to do some really creative things and take advantage of an inflationary time. So we could be coming into a time of inflation. Now, I'm not saying we'll get this bad, but similarly, Zimbabwe in 2008, they issued the highest single denominated currency that has ever been printed. So this right here, this is a $100 trillion bill. I don't know if you can see with the light, 100 trillion. That's a 1 with 14 zeros. So it's really kind of amazing that this even exists. This has become a collector's item now, and at the time it was worth something, and then it was very quickly devalued to be worth nothing. So basically, gold and silver are money. Those are things that we should be collecting because they store value, and for 5,000 years, we've all agreed that these have value, that they have worth. Now, why is that? Has it really been that the dollar has lost its value? And if you see this chart, you can see, yeah, it takes more dollars to buy the same amount of goods. That's why when people look back at the 50s and they say, man, a hamburger only cost a nickel and now it's, you know, $4 or $5. Well, why is that? Is it that the hamburger just actually costs more? No, it's actually that there's more currency in play, there's more currency available, and so it takes more to get the same amount of goods, because the amount of real goods necessarily hasn't changed, it's just that the currency has changed. One example of this is if you look back and you say, what did it cost 100 years ago for a nice men's suit? And Robert Helms, who's a friend of mine, he says, you know, if you hold 1 gold coin, that's about what it costs for a really nice men's suit 100 years ago. And today, if you're buying a nice tailored custom men's suit, it costs about 1 gold coin. So basically that means that gold has really retained its value. It's not even necessarily an investment, right? Because it is a store of value, it's money. So a lot of people look at it like, oh, I'm gonna get in, you know, buy some gold or buy some silver, I'm gonna sell it and get out of it and get back into dollars. Well, it's kind of the backwards way of looking at it. We should basically look at seeing if we can store more of our wealth in gold and in silver because it actually stores value for us. So the question really is in this environment of money printing and stimulus and checks going out, and it's inevitable that inflation is going to come, and it's important that you think about this before inflation hits. Not later, not down the road, but think about it right now. So there's two places that I love for putting wealth in an inflationary, or even as we're approaching an inflationary time. One is gold and silver, precious metals. The other would be multifamily real estate. Very stable asset class, the stuff that we do. We have 800 multifamily units. We're constantly looking for new deals because we know by getting money in a deal now, it's going to protect us for later because it's basically an inflation hedge. Rents typically rise with inflation, which is awesome when you're on the side where you're not having to pay rent, but you're the one that owns the building, and there's a way to actually get in a deal by grouping with other investors through something called syndication, which is what we do, and it's very exciting. So I wanted to share this quote with you. This comes from Thomas Jefferson. So he says, "Paper money is liable to be abused, has been, is, and forever will be abused in every country in which it is permitted." So it's just kind of going to show that paper money is not truly money. True wealth is in gold and silver, and it actually stores wealth. Now, as I mentioned, you can get into gold and silver. That's not a business necessarily that I'm in. I do invest in those things, but the business that I'm in is multifamily real estate. We're constantly looking for deals. We've got a couple things in the pipeline right now. We're continually looking for investors. So if you're interested in getting involved in one of our deals, you can go to bronsonequity.com, join our investment club. We'll set up a call with you, start a relationship. We also have this great free report that talks about investing, the best investment strategy during and after a pandemic. You can check it out. I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and put your comments below. You can reach out to me, and I'd love to hear how this video impacted you. Feel free to like and subscribe to the video, and we'll see you on the next video.